are ye? I have read over 150 books this year, so I feel like I have some wisdom to bestow on the people who want to read more. I wrote down some tips of how I read more this year, how I made time to read more, how I neglected social gatherings to read. So the first tip is formats. So many different formats that you can read a book. Firstly, you can physically read a book, you can do an audiobook, you can do graphic novel, manga, read on your Kindle if you have a Kindle, but if you don't, that's a-okay. You can read on your phone. If you're someone that can't read more than one book at one go, that used to be me. I could only read one book at one go, but it's like a gradual thing. If you start putting in easier books to read alongside, so let's say you're reading a physical book, you can maybe add in a graphic novel. It's a really gradual process. You don't have to whack out reading 4 books at one go. The main thing I would say if you're reading on different formats is read different genres. Let's say you're reading a fantasy physical book. I would say like read a romance Kindle book. I would say don't have really similar genres in the formats that you're reading because it might get confusing then. The amount of times I've been so confused. I was listening to a romance audiobook and also a romance book on the Kindle, and I was getting the characters all confused. Also, in these different formats of reading, you can also do it on transport. If you're going on a bus, listen to an audiobook. Read on your phone. If you're in the car driving to work, listen to your audiobook. I have listened to a lot of audiobooks just because driving and coming back from work. The next tip is websites or apps. So I use BorrowBox. You connect to your library through it. I don't know if it's an Irish thing or if other countries use it, but I use BorrowBox. But there's also Libby, Scribd. There's so many other ones, but if you use those, you don't have to buy the books. Having these free apps or free websites through your library, basically, it promotes you to read more because you know you don't have to pay for it. Next tip is read genres that you actually like. You know you will fly through, that you love, that you just like read in one sitting. For me, that would definitely be romance books, which is a genre that I've read a lot this year. Read your old favorite books. So for me, that's Jacqueline Wilson. I read a lot of Jacqueline Wilson, mostly because it was a readathon earlier on this year, but I read a lot of her books, and just reading them again, because they're so short and they're middle grade or even younger than that, you read through them so quickly. They're really enjoyable too. Like, I had such a good experience. Did I really have a good experience? Because Jacqueline Wilson's books are kind of traumatizing, but it was nice to read them again after so many years. If you've been wanting to read Divergent, that trilogy again, read it again. The Hunger Games, I read that, reread that last year. Best experience of my life, and I flew through them. The next tip is to create a routine. When do you like reading? When are you in your prime for reading? When are your eyes like laser focused on the book? Like if it's at night, take 2 hours out of your night routine and just read. I would like to give a shout out to the morning. Let's say you're going to work, wake up an hour earlier. Not only is there a beautiful sky, you can sit down, read, get a cup of tea, get a coffee, get a hot chocolate, get hot water, anything hot. It's really comforting. It's such an amazing way to wake up. I love reading in the morning and listening to the birds, never ending squeaking. Try reading in the morning one day. If you don't like it, try it again the next day. You might like it. If you're a night reader, take a couple hours out. Get off your phone, get off Netflix, get off YouTube. Next one kind of goes into that, and prioritizing reading. You gotta get off Netflix. If you have free time and you've been really wanting to read a book, do not go onto Netflix and start a new TV show. I see what you're doing, because it's exactly what I'm doing right now. I've just started The Witcher season 1 rewatch. Prioritizing if you're in work and you get breaks from work. Read in those breaks. That's what I've been doing recently. So if you're at work and you're on your break and you're actually in the cafeteria and you don't want to bring your book, I actually take pictures of the book and then I read it on my phone when I'm on break. If you want to read the book you're reading currently and you don't want to bring it in physically to your work, take pictures. Prioritizing reading is probably the main thing. So once you start prioritizing reading, you get into a routine. This year, especially for me, I forced myself to read more than watch Netflix and YouTube, even though I still watch YouTube a lot. If you gradually, with intent, put down your phone, because I know it's so hard. If it's easier to put on a timer. Like, I used to do this for books I did not want to read. I did this for Ninth House because I did not want to read it. I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down, put on a timer for 30 minutes, and I'm going to read. Once you read over, let's say, 20 pages, you start to get really into it and you don't want to stop reading. Another tip too is to make use of the library. And also from this might be a bit toxic. Probably is toxic, maybe don't use it. From the library, you have to give back the books you've loaned out. So if you take out a load of books, let's say you take out 7 books, you know you have to read those books in a certain amount of time. That makes you have to read the books. So that's a bit toxic. Along with that, getting books from the library, just having a big TBR. I wouldn't say like a massive TBR, maybe like 20-30 books, physical books. Now if you have that many books, you feel the need to read them, and you feel like you constantly need to read them. I think I'm just mostly throwing out my problems. But if you have a big TBR, you'll want to get rid of the TBR books. For me, it definitely is, because I have a big TBR right now, physical TBR, and I keep on looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I have to get this down. So that's why I'm reading so much. I'm like flying through the books. These tips are really great. They're really good to read more. The downside of this for me, the effects that I have gotten from these, is I've become slightly obsessed with the number, especially on Goodreads. When you set a number of books you want to read, I surpassed that, I swear to God, mid this year. I was constantly looking like at the number going up and up and up, and I wanted it to go up and up and up all the time. So that's why I was reading so many books, so I could get the number up, so I can get to 100, so I can get to 120. Yes, I really did enjoy the books, but some of them, they brought down my experience because I was just trying to get through them so I could go up a number. So these tips are great. Reading more is absolutely great, but you don't have to pressure yourself. If you're not feeling reading for 5 months, don't read for 5 months. Read books you enjoy, read books you know you like. I probably have more tips, but I can't remember right now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got some tips. Hope you read so much. I hope you read 200 books next year. Peace.